Joe Kenny from the Governor's Council with us today. And having such a distinguished guest, I'm going to hold off getting into our normal business and going through our folders so we don't take up too much of Joe's time. Joe, can you hear me?
He's muted.
You're muted. Who?
Yes, I'm muted.
You have to unmute yourself. Oh,
Okay, can you hear me now?
no, not yet.
Not yet?
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Selectmen, Effingham. It's a strange world we live in, so usually I'm in person, but today is a good opportunity just to, kind of reintroduce myself. I got sworn in January earlier this year, and been trying to make the rounds to the town halls. Be up in Conway today talking to the Board of Selectmen about their pathway project with the DOT Deputy Commissioner Bill Cass. We've made a heck of a lot of appointments in state government. We have a new Attorney General, John Famella, new Chief Justice, Gordon McDonald. We have Assistant Commissioner of Safety, Eddie Edwards. Lots of people we've placed on the State Board of Education, along with some of the other important boards and commissions. But one of the other functions we do is we put people on the benches. So today I'll be sitting down with a candidate, Patricia Ryan, for lunch to talk about her candidacy to the Superior Court. She's currently the Rockingham County Attorney. And last week we placed two on the Circuit Court bench, gentleman, Mr. Ryan from Swansea and Ellen Joseph from Merrimack. So the governor has made it very clear. We're looking for people, candidates who qualify. He needs more circuit court judges. And obviously it's an important role that the governors and council play. Focus obviously has been on COVID, and most of the municipalities, if not all, excuse me, are going to be receiving some type of funding. I know, for instance, my community, Wakefield, I think is getting 200,000. The county overall is getting 9.7. I could check on Effingham to see what their distribution amount is going to be. It could be, that money comes in two phases, but the way it's been described, it most likely would go to the New Hampshire State Treasury. It'll disperse to the communities probably in 1 and 2 year increments. And so that should be, coming up pretty soon, I would think, in the next few weeks. But obviously with COVID, our prioritization has been on vaccine registry and making sure that, we get the vaccines stations and clinics around the state. We just recently had a big, the Loudon racetrack, just a big kind of oversized clinic, if you will. And they were pushing about 700 people per hour through that clinic at the Speedway. I was inquiring at one point why we shut down the Tamworth National Guard Armory site, but I think that had more to do with resources, and there just weren't enough numbers at one point going to Tamworth. Although, obviously you can go to Huggins Hospital, and in some cases, some of the, I think it's Walgreens and Memorial Hospital. So there are other locations that people can go. One of the things that the town of Effingham might be wondering about is the 10-year highway improvement plan, which will be that will be put in motion later this spring with a DOT commissioner along with the governors and council members. It's called the GASSET, which is the Governor Advisory Committee on Intermodal Transportation. And so the regional planning commissions, which I'm not sure if you belong to the Lakes region or if you belong to one at all. Lakes region. So we would have discussions with them on what their priorities are within their area. And so then we'll set up hearings throughout the late summer and early fall. And then hopefully once we approve the 10-year highway improvement plan, we'll go ahead and push that off to the governor for signature. And then next year, the legislature, gets its hands on it and gets to work it through their process. There is discussion about an infrastructure bill coming out of Washington. we have a Commissioner, Victoria Sheehan, who's the president of ASHTO, which is a kind of a national safety organization. And she's very attuned at the money coming into the state of New Hampshire. So if there are shovel-ready projects that your community want to get done this year and there's funding, let my office know, and we'll see what we can do. But I think, as the governor said at the last meeting last week, we have more money than we know how to spend. And of course, there are many people say, well, if we can't spend it, give it back. And so, there's always that fun discussion that, that kind of goes on. But does the town of Effingham have any current needs?
Well, I was hoping to touch on that, so I appreciate the pause there. That money now, is that funding for state infrastructure roads, or is that for something that would be available from municipal roads?
Well, the 10-year highway improvement plan will be for municipalities and state roads. One of the things that the commission is trying to do is look at the funding that's coming into the state and trying to determine what it can be used for. So that's an excellent question. Obviously, the money you get through the stimulus money that the town gets, you can use that for most anything that you want, infrastructure, roads, or whatnot. However, you can't use it to offset taxes. So that's the only caveat that I'm aware of right now. And what I'll do is I'll text you the amount that's projected that Effingham is supposed to get. And so you could technically use that money and put it towards roads. The other money that's coming through infrastructure, the highway plan, I don't know how that's actually going to be, what are the rules and regulations associated with, and the commission is working on that as we speak. So the more I know, the more I'll push out to the communities. Do you get on my newsletter at all? I usually try to push that out after each governor council meeting. Is that something that your town of Effingham gets?
I haven't seen it. There was a time when my communication with you was a little clearer of a path. You took a break for a little bit, so I guess we'll have to reestablish that.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll push out my, because I just posted it on Monday, yesterday. I'll push it off to you, to the town email address, so you have it. It's a good read. What I've done is, from past years, I've cut it right down to the bare bones. What is going to impact the district, and what were the major issues talked at the council meeting, so that people don't get caught into all these contracts throughout the state, that they can kind of focus in on what's going on in the district. And then more importantly, what have been some of the important topics of the day. I mean, for instance, last governor council meeting, we talked about, obviously, about the distribution of stimulus money. We talked about childcare, which is an important topic right now around the state. We talked about the suicide 988 number that's going to be pushed out to the public here in the next year. And so we talked, I tend to try to highlight 3 or 4 important items in the newsletter. And then thereafter, I look at, what specific contracts were passed in District 1, which, as you know, it rolls from Claremont all the way to Pittsburgh, down to Milton, pretty much everything in between. So it's a large area. So obviously, I don't get a lot of, requests out of Effingham so much, but when I do, I surely hear it. I think I remember working on the fire tower many years ago, and the funding and the project on that. I've worked on, some road issues over the years, and there might have been some conservation contracts as well. So, so again, I just wanted to pop in and say hi. How you doing? And I'm doing that starting, since last week, getting out to the town halls and kind of reintroducing myself and but more importantly, trying to get more information going back and forth from my office. I've got a wonderful intern this spring, Virginia Dry, who's been helping me, trying to get that communication piece going as well.
That's great to hear, and we're very interested in everything that's going on, so we'll look forward to being updated. And
Absolutely.
just to bring you back a little, Joe, the shovel-ready projects, we would definitely like to know more about that because we actually have several. I would say that we probably have a solid half a dozen actually. And money is an issue. Small town, we're very rural, so
Sure.
any support, any help we could get, we welcome it. So if there's a communication with your office or you directly like to establish that.
Absolutely. That's why it's important me to find out which towns are getting my newsletter because that's going to be my vehicle of communication, which will be simply, this is a stimulus money. This is what you can use it for. This is the federal highway bill. This is the money that you can use it for. Because as you know, the Bridge Aid program has been underfunded for years. There's been so many other state, DOT funding sources that have been way underfunded. So I tell everybody, you get money in your community, put it into infrastructure, because no one complained at that point that it's for everybody. But we're at the point in time in history we need to throw everything into infrastructure. So I will get that information out to you. And I will email you what is the projected amount that Effingham's going to get. And then secondly, I'll send you my newsletter.
Great.
Okie doke.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I guess when we see what's available and what we can move forward with, we probably will
We'll
have
follow
some. But
Okay, sounds good.
it's been a
All
while
right. Well,
we talked. I think it was 2018 when you and I last had a conversation. So it's
yeah, absolutely. Hey, I don't forget my small towns. I grew up in one.
on the street. So
No, it's kind of interesting. Right out of the gate, the first 2 weeks I was in office, I started getting complaints out of Lebanon, which is my city, which I represent. And lo and behold, it was the Westboro yard issue. They didn't want the train to be able to renegotiate its lease through there. And at the same time, they had some buildings that DOT had promised that they would demolish in the yard. And so luckily I knew the issue very well and I was able to handle it within the matter of, a week. And so we passed the lease agreement for the railroad to go through there. And then we released the funding so they could knock down the buildings in Westboro Yard. And so that's a tough part of the district for me to make people happy. And I made them happy. And I said, well, that's what you do when you elect someone who has, experience, who knows the issues of his district and who grew up in the state. So sometimes, experience does help. And obviously we confirm all the commissioners in state government and I have a strong relationship with them. So if you have issues with public assistance, I know where to go. HHS, DOT, environmental permits, which is big now because the construction season is on its way, or any other, safety, whatever issue that comes up in your community, let the citizens know. Reach out to my office and I'll be glad to help them out.
that's great. You touch on environmental services. I have two of our major projects here on the table today. So these are pretty much settled, but we know the process. So we won't hesitate to reach out. You've done it now.
Well, it's not that I'm looking for work, but in my job, if I don't look for work, they're not going to think that I'm actually working. So with that, the governor's office is chiming in. So I'll bid you a good day today and please stay in touch.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.
I know. Well, maybe there's some more good news on the horizon funding wise.
I'm just writing down the Elm Street.
Yeah. I had a mental list running through my head just going. I had several conversations with, I was talking to Ron Evans yesterday. I was talking to pavers. I was dusting off my road paving projects. I have these things in front of me that, my head spins when I hear that talk. we could do things. All right, so, I guess we'll go into the folders here and see if we can't get this moving. Thank you, sir.
You wanna cover?
Excuse me?
You wanna cover, you wanna be in here.
Oh, sure, that's a good idea. Just so everyone, understands, Mr. Hart is not with us today. He has, some personal family, matters to deal with, and we expect to see him next week. So, that's why you don't see Mr. Hart today. I think I'll need these.
Mike, once you sign this letter for the fire warden thing, I'll get your signature this week.
All right. Audrey, is there some question on the software billing from Avatar?
No, that was the December one that we rolled over into this year.
Oh, okay. I just saw a few notations.
Yeah, I
and
couldn't recall why I had balance outstanding, so when I look back, I remember. Thought we should catch up. Since it was a light manifest this week.
Oh, we like light manifest.
Did you print the minutes off?
Yeah, I got a handwritten for everyone.
Oh, okay. You want to sign one somewhere too? I'll put this in.
Okay. Thank you. I'll get this one eventually.
We'll have to discuss the timeline for getting you. It looks like my old friend Claudia is still listed on the waste management bill. They just won't recognize you, will they?
It's the process. Chris was only crossing out her name and adding them. It's a process. Working on that one.
She did have a long relationship with you. Elusive trust funds, or a cemetery down the end of the road. Um, do we know when the trustees will be meeting next to address?
They've been meeting monthly, I think. There's a tentative for business. I'm not aware that they're doing any special.
Right, I guess we should make sure they're
Yeah,
aware.
well, I'll verify because they've called me for status.
Great.
I modified the request, so it's more like a form because they've been working on a form, so maybe it'll help
Okay,
the process.
sure.
Excuse me, Chuck, we have one person who's called in. Are you expecting them?
Yeah, actually, I told Winston I would call him at 9:30.
Feel free to entertain Mr. Morrow so we don't lose him. And,
Yeah, I would agree with him.
okay.
Hello,
Winston,
good morning.
Good.
How are you?
pretty good, sir. I've got you on speakerphone on my cell phone. And you're also gonna be live on the listening part of the tape video for the selectmen's meeting.
Okay,
So Michael's just finishing up reviewing one thing and we can dive into it.
We can dive right in. I can multitask here to some degree.
So this is the fourth candidate that we had for the alternate position on the Historic District Commission.
Sure.
And we had the other three people dial in at different periods.
Yeah.
And we asked Winston to be available for dialing today. So if there's anything that you'd like to ask questions, make points of?
Well, I guess at this point, I know I've met Winston. I know where he lives. He's actually in the historic district, which is kind of nice to have somebody that actually lives in that area that's has a direct effect, so to speak, with those regulations. So that's great. I think a lot of what you will get exposed to or need to know are my earlier comments with the other board members. He can catch up on in a meeting, so I'm not going to bore him to death with that. I guess I'm just going to ask you a simple question. It's kind of the boring, everybody asks question. Why do you want to join this commission, Winston?
Well, I think you touched on a few of the more important points. I think that it would be beneficial, maybe. Of course, I'll try my best. Of course, being an alternate is not, is not a forward member, but to have maybe an opinion from somebody within the district itself. I'm very interested to know the goings on around the historic district and what provisions are going to be added, subtracted, etc. I have obviously an invested interest in the town at this point, so it'd be nice to see the town shine, and the historical district, I think, is really a good starting point.
Well, I think those are good points, and I think it's good to have representation, as you pointed out, that lives in and deals with the regulations directly. So it's a good perspective to have on the board. So I really don't have any more for you to put you on the spot here today. I'm going to see if Mr. Fuller wants to make a motion to appoint you, though.
I will. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lisa Morrow as an alternate to the Historic District Commission.
Well, I'm usually yield to Tom Hart at this point, but Mr. Hart's not here today, just so you know that. With that, I will second the motion,
And Fuller, aye.
and we'll call a vote. Mr. Fuller says aye. That's a Cahalan aye, and Mr. Hart is not here to vote. So with that, you just need to get sworn in as an alternate, which you can do probably with the town clerk, tax collector, or there may be other options there, so we can follow up. Worst case, you can be sworn in by a selectman.
Winston, thank you for your time.
Thank you for volunteering, Winston.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I mean, is there any kind of, let me ask you a question real quick though. Is there any kind of package that you guys have of not very well read into? I know an alternate is an alternate, but I'd still like to maybe know where to find information of already standing things, and I'm sure at this point I'll be read into any goings on from here on out maybe, but anything I can maybe educate myself a little bit so that I don't ask stupid questions
Yeah, I think
going forward.
you're actually probably gonna do the same thing I did early on. On the town website, under the forms and docs area, the Historic District Commission is referenced in there, and there are a few documents that would be worth learning and knowing about.
Okay.
And I would say if you had that basis, you're probably gonna be pretty good shape for the first meeting you have.
Yeah, you'll be able to find the historic district regulations, which is a standalone document under the Historic District Commission. The other thing
I think I already have that.
okay.
When I bought the house.
Well, I don't know how long ago you bought it, so there's always could be amended and changes could have been made. So you just want to make sure you've got the most recent copy. And then the other thing is in the zoning ordinance, there's Article 15, and that would cover the historic district, as well as there tends to be some other things that would tie in. There's a permitted uses chart in Article 10 that would tell you what's allowed. Special exception is for some things that are not allowed in that area. And then I think it's Article 4 where you'll find the setback requirements. So in the document of the zoning ordinance, there's hard and fast regulations that the district commission doesn't get to oversee and enforce. It goes in a different direction, whether that's planning boards and zoning boards, or just things for the zoning officer.
That would be good to know for sure.
Yeah, and if you would like any background, you can certainly call me when, after a meeting or something. I was on the board for the commission for a bit, and my wife actually chaired the board recently. She was on there for 3 years. So I have access to probably a lot of the relevant documentations that we could share with you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. Well, great. I look forward to working with you gentlemen as we go forward.
Good.
Good.
Winston, thank you very much for your time this morning.
All right, take care now.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Andre.
Chuck, we have a standing desk over there, we can bring them over.
No, I'll try and sit occasionally here.
Updates, lots of updates. Good. All right. Side. So with folders have gone through. We have minutes of the March 16th meeting to approve, so I'll make a motion to approve those.
Fuller second.
All in favor?
All right.
Cahalan, aye. Did we have non-publics last week? We did not, did we?
That was 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
yeah.
Time flies, you have fun.
That's what I was looking, well, that was the date. Last week, though, we didn't, those are not.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We have, I'll make a motion to approve the manifest in the amount of $20,547.58.
Fuller second.
Thank you, sir. All in
All
favor?
right.
Cahalan, aye. Signature folder, we are getting the trust fund money out to the Effingham Falls Cemetery Association, so that will be welcome. Mr. Thompson's appointment letter was in there, which you're gonna handle that, Kurt?
Will.
Okay, and an application for current use was in the signature folder. The review of the mail, we have our ongoing reports from our zoning officer weekly. Notices of a individual sewage disposal systems are in the mail. Lakes Region Planning Commission's annual report. And the Action Ambulance is sending out what looks like monthly reports versus quarterly right now, and that was in the folder. We have an announcement. Town clerk is seeking questions for the public, from the public for candidates night, which do we have a hard and fast date for candidates then?
April 13th.
April 13th. All right, so get those questions in. And is there going to be contested races that are being, folks coming in for, a planning board, any other thing? Is it strictly selectmen? Do we
I
know?
believe it's only selectmen that Deanna is on, if she wanted to speak.
Aha,
You want to ask her?
I do. I would like to know if Ms. Amaral could update us as to whether there will be any other candidates that will be at candidates night, or if it's just the Board of Selectmen candidates.
I asked her to unmute.
I can wait.
Of course, she might not be at her desk.
All right, well, if we get that update in the course of business, we will supply it. With that, I'm gonna go into a new folder that we have established. Thank you, Audrey, for 91A request, which seems to be on the uptick lately. So we have a request for the town's personnel policy from Mr. Pycutt, and I believe that's been furnished to him.
Everything's completed.
Everything is completed, okay. There was a request from, I believe this was from Ms. Belle Isle, for septic plans for members, some of the members of the Board of Selectmen and one of her neighbors, in which case it's been the same answer for her all along. The town does not keep septic system records here. That is a state function. The state oversees subsurface systems. And let's see, there's a request from DNR. Oh, I'm gonna assume this is R&D paving for work on Green Mountain Road in 2020. That would be from Mr. Edwards. And like you said, that's been completed, so I won't ask. The environmental report, that's been taken care of. All these others have already been taken care of. All right, so at least the public is getting the information they're requesting, which is good. Well, the best we can accommodate. So with that, we're off to Audrey. What's new and interesting in the office this week?
Oh, with Deanna first.
I look at, we made you come in broken foot and all,
Just selectmen.
just select.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
All right.
And that is at, what time, 6 p.m.?
6:30.
6:30, April 13th, just the two candidates for selectmen. Any questions about the candidates, to the candidates, send those into the town clerk tax collector's email on the website.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have any questions yet.
All right, good to know. No questions yet. It's gonna be a quiet night.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Hart not being here, Chuck, why don't you tell me, you've got some paperwork from me?
Oh, we got a couple things.
All right,
So Audrey, here's the original contract for the architect for the historic town hall project. I did the voucher paperwork and the supporting documentation, gave it to Effingham Preservation Society. Treasurer cut a check for $1,800, which is the deposit for the requirement to get that contract implemented. So I gave that check to Audrey today. We need to write a check for $1,800
okay.
to get it out to them. And the address is on that document.
Is that going to be something that's gonna be required to be added this week to?
Not this week, no,
Okay.
we can do it for next week. No. I was working on the safety manual yesterday, wasn't able to run down here with the check. LRPC annual report, had a chance to cruise through it. One of the things I noticed was that they do buying services for not only electric and oil, but also gas. Have we ever
Wow.
looked into what their gas price for their consortium is?
I'm going to say that I never have, and I was unaware that they had a gas contract or a resource there. So I've never heard of anybody else pursuing it in the past. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But we do supposedly are available for state bid pricing, which may or may not be problematic. In the last time we discussed this with Audrey, I think Rhymes might have that contract, and there was some hiccup in there.
Yeah, it will expire, I believe it was in June. So that's when we want to watch to get on it again. our prices were lower than what they were giving until then. So since we're at the end of our season, our heat season,
Okay, so
we're getting good pricing right now.
I guess the thing would be to see what AmeriGas's prices are more or less of late, what Rhymes or the state's bid price is,
And find out what the LRPC.
see what they have to offer. And that brings me back down to securing our own propane tanks down the road, should we elect to do that. I noticed that not only the library is a big charge, we have our own tank here, but Fire Station 2 is another area where having an independent tank, our own tank, might be beneficial because the Fire Station 2, the big one, uses a fair amount of fuel as well. So there could be some savings here, an outlay, but eventual savings. So you want to chase that?
Yeah, I'll take that one on
Super.
and see if I can get information on it. Make a note. Okay. Tomorrow I'm coming down with Grace, work with Audrey on the draft of the personnel policy stuff, see if we can get that updated or get the draft in better shape for review by
Sure.
the selectmen. Did you hear anything back on from Primex on that contract agreement?
I think I did, but I have to look.
Okay,
It's
cool.
been a little crazy.
Yep, understand that one. Health officer email address. I kind of agree, it should be a shotgun to 4 or 5 people.
Well, if I got the drift of the concern, it was that people would be answering from it, and that should not be taking place. It should be just simply to disperse the information to the relevant parties who should be informed, but not be a platform for people to answer on behalf of the health officer from. Not to like the zoning officer or informing the office of what's taking place. That's just a distribution list. And if the health officer's email needed to be used for a reply, that would be for the health officer or the deputy health officer. So I don't know what the overarching concern is in disseminating the relevant information, because what we're really looking for to capture was from the state, but I could see that there could be some sensitive correspondence that maybe doesn't go out. So I would entertain any ideas on how to get the information to the relevant parties.
Well, my opinion was forwarding it. When things are forwarded, it's very easy not to realize that they were a forwarded email. And you could reply without really seeing that it's you. So the way, for example, I have my Outlook set up is I have my email address and I have Town of Effingham. So I'm very distinctly in one email box or another when I'm replying. And the signature lines are different. So there's that it doesn't get commingled and people reply accidentally. And then identifying who's going to be the lead. And just having rules about it. So if you're the health officer and you're going to be looking at all of this, then some of the things coming to Town of Effingham that we would normally forward, I think I would start just pushing that way. So if someone else took over as health officer, we just give them a new password and they would get in. So the forwarding part is what concerned me.
Okay, so we need to have a new health officer's address, which
We have
doesn't.
one.
We have
We
one.
have one.
We established that.
It's ready to be flipped, they just needed a how to flip.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the shotgun approach kind of raised questions, so that's what's held off from last week's work.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I did see that there was some concerns there, so you do have,
On your phone, you can probably have multiple emails. I have, for example, my personal, I have my Town of Effingham one. And another committee I'm on. So you can have different emails on your phone. So you would know you were checking health officer.
yep,
So
I have two.
we might be able to help if you need help.
Oh,
Just
thank
saying,
you.
just saying.
No, the technology challenged children in the room, sure. Yeah, we Okay, so then, the distribution portion,
At this point, so you'd be the primary.
and I would have to,
I'm saying we also probably need a secondary.
well, that would be the deputy health officer, which we have.
Okay,
Tom's registered with the state
okay.
as well. They give you these nifty yellow cards and everything, you're a member of the club. We get to use the washroom, so.
So Tom, I know he does an email only on his computer. I think he can get in via the web, to a web address, I can test that. Otherwise I can have a workstation here where he checks in, because he swings by quite often.
He does.
Yeah.
Proximity item.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we can follow up with Tom and see what works for him. We can set that email up and then I can access it remotely and, it's the remotely meaning not having to come in here, brick and mortar establishment. And, from there, I'll just physically forward the relevant emails to the appropriate parties. Okay,
Good. Next, the FCC E-rate program for the library for internet. I had a follow-up discussion with Ian at Consolidated the other day. And it looks like for us to take advantage of it this year, we have to have a signed contract in place, and that information has to be entered into the federal system by tomorrow night at 5 o'clock.
lovely.
So I was a little concerned with the fact that we're gonna bring up at the town meeting, we'd like to appropriate a little bit more money into the operating budget to cover the 6 months of uncovered internet expense. And I talked to Ian and said, like, if I sign a contract now, I don't want to be in a position where I'm locked in for July 1st, because if we don't get the appropriation, I don't want to be hooked into it. And he said, not an issue. What they would end up doing is, apparently, after the contract is signed, we have to establish an install date. He goes, if you never establish the install date, the contract never goes into play. So that would be our way to make sure that it didn't automatically get activated in the event we did not pass anything at the May town meeting.
Okay, I did see something on the subject and I was on the phone and emailing, dealing with people on a multitude. It ate my whole day from get up to supper time. So I have stacking up emails right now.
Yep.
So I kind of glanced at a few things and saved
Yeah,
it as unread.
I copied you on
Right.
his email, just so you were aware of what was there. We did actually get 5 different vendors to submit contracts under that E-rate program. It looks like it was an agent or broker acting on behalf of a half a dozen aggregators, because their prices were anywhere from $15,000 to $24,000 a year for internet at the library. Consolidated Communications price is about $284 a month, and about $204 that's going to be put up against this discount program with the FCC. So it's going to be somewhere between a 60 and 70% discount off of $204. It's about $130, $135.
All right, so the discount is only lasts as long as the program lasts to give us a discount. There's a point that could go away.
Right.
Just
So, and
not poo-pooing.
it's a 3-year contract. So in looking at the information yesterday on the FCC site, they're very clear in that if you have more than a 1-year contract, the discount applies to the duration of the contract. So
Okay.
33 months from now, or 30 months from now, we're gonna have it in the clicker to be able to go back in and basically say, folks, we need to reapply for this thing for the next contract after 36 months.
Okay,
Or we say we don't want to have the internet at the library.
because it's cost prohibitive but
Right.
so right now you said about $280 a month?
It's $284 because the phone equipment in one of the equipment boxes isn't covered underneath the discount program.
Okay, so I'm doing quick math here. That sounds like it's 2908 or, yeah, because you've got
That was the number
284.
I gave you last week, $564 from July to the end of the year.
Okay,
$94 a month is what's short right now.
well, without the discount.
Yep.
If it's 284,
Okay.
12-month span, just saying if we,
Yeah,
36.
full price.
Full price for a year, that sounds to me like $2,908. And I only put it in that context because that's a full disclosure town
Yeah, no, that's
meeting
good.
and the budget committee, when we cycle back in October,
Right,
it's like, we're shooting in the area of $3,000, and I wouldn't wanna try and cover some costs like that in our operating budget, which is why we're gonna talk to folks.
Yeah.
Without, and sign a contract without at least providing some input to the budget committee. If it's time sensitive, we go with it because this is a deal we should take advantage of, but we will
and I'll
need
bring
to
it up at the very
explain
next budget
ourselves.
committee meeting.
Right, we will need to explain this rationale later. We will get called on the carpet for it.
Yep.
But it's what happens in the middle of the year, budget cycles once a year, so. Just
I'm good.
thinking out loud, yeah. I think it's a worthwhile adventure because the world just operates this way. And with the discount, it isn't $2,900. It will be less. So whatever we get into initially, if we recognize the discount there again, it's a good enough deal that I think we can, I don't think we'll be chastised too badly for doing.
No, and it's actually a good deal for the town from a standpoint of the quality of the service it's gonna be able to provide way different than it is today.
Right.
That's minimal to not working. And because of the discount program by the government, we as a small town, being rural, where we are, and all the different criteria they set up, on the E-rate site for the government, it basically spells out, here's what goes into the criteria, and we're between 60 and 70%. I just don't know which one they're gonna give us, 60, 65, 68, 70, we're between 60 and 70.
Yeah.
So,
Plus, again, anything over 50%, now you're at $1,450 for a year, so it's a good deal, like you said. So I don't have a problem moving forward with it.
okay, so as far as signing that, you want me to sign it? You wanna sign it?
I really like the folks who bring this stuff forward to kind of put their name on it. It's the work you
Yeah, okay.
did. It always,
I don't need to credit. I'm okay.
I know, and it's really not about that, but you see people go and work, themselves. The hours you spend forgetting, it can be a little thing. And then somebody else comes in and puts their name on your work, and it's like, I don't know. It just makes me feel better when other people, sign a document like that.
I look at.
It's a historical-
What needs to be accomplished, regardless how the teamwork.
I know, and that's what we do. The board has worked well in that regard, but just a little part of me says,
Okay.
why not have, for posterity's sake, you have your signature on there and.
All right, so I'll sign that today. I'll scan it as a PDF. I'll get it back to Ian, and sometime today or tomorrow morning, I'll enter in the FCC site and complete all the additional paperwork that's gotta be there, and then we'll wait to hear from them.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll actually hear what the final number will be from a discount standpoint before the town meeting.
Okay, so now, with this, the question I'm gonna have going forward with it for a town meeting and / budget committee members is who's absorbing this budget-wise? Because as we all are aware, that the library is a standalone operating budget. It's in all of our budget for accounting purposes, but they kind of operate under their own steam there. So would you like to have this incorporated into the library's budget, therefore amending the library budget portion of town meeting?
That would make more sense
I would think it would be
to be able to do it that way.
yeah, because it's
It
really
keeps-
a cost.
It keeps it cleaner relative to the operation itself,
Right,
in that building. So,
and you track the cost specific over there for the library. I mean, we pay a lot of things, electricity, fuel, whatnot, but this one, I think it would be reasonable to,
Yeah.
as an operating cost, to break it out under the library. That's just
yeah,
me.
no, that's good. Let me just make a note here. Okay. And then, I don't know if you want to see this, but here are these proposals that were severely above $3,000 a year.
Oh, okay.
I was shocked when I saw the number. The first number that came through was like $19,000. It's like, are you kidding me?
I don't need to look at that.
But when I looked at it, it's the same agent
Right.
on 5 different companies. So it's like, okay.
It's like
And
going to
I actually
your.
talked to Ian, and Ian said, well, the only way they could do it is to buy this internet from us and mark it up with all their commissions and all their extra costs as an outside aggregator, and then give it to you. So it's like, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Just want to make sure. All right, last item for me, the safety manual. So I took the information from Primex, the town insurance carrier, incorporated a number of the elements of that document into the draft document we had. And as a result of really diving into this, this is really meant for construction, contractor, carpenter type work, electrician, lighting, type things. So rather than making it a town manual, I want to make it a town manual specific only to the historic town hall project. Literally put it in the title, safety manual for the town of Effingham Historic Town Hall Library Project. And try it out and see what happens. See if there's any kickback, feedback, comments from any of these contractors that we're dealing with for this project. And there'll be about, I think, 8 individual contractors for 12 different project components over the next year and a half. And at some point, probably right after the town meeting, the safety committee probably needs to get together and we need to come up with a town manual so that we can meet the criteria we need.
Okay, so a couple of things on this. I reached out to Dave over at Primex, our insurer. So he gave us some guidelines for you to chase down on this, which there's the 1400 labor law rules or whatever, which the town needs to have and adopt. And that's pretty straightforward. And OSHA rules apply, and those are also carried by any contractor. They're subject to OSHA regulations.
Specific to their type of contract work.
Right.
Yep.
So there's a lot there that the onus is on the contractor, but we need our own, the minimum, the 1400s, and then there's debatable on what portions of OSHA regulations would apply to some of our operations. So there's some.
In OSHA's, for this particular purpose of this project.
Right.
In looking at the New Hampshire workers' comp areas that were referenced, the stuff is in here. And the OSHA stuff is in here. So by the type of contract work that's there. So I'm pretty confident that for the basis of this project, we're covered. But I think going forward, we need to look at it from a bigger town standpoint around employees and things like that.
Right, and that's where Dave at Primex was steering the ship. So I haven't had time to dissect what you put together, and it's time sensitive for you as you outlined it. So I'm willing to move this forward, and if things are not applicable, they just won't be applicable during the process. With that, Chief Burbank has headed up our safety committee for years now, as far as I know, and so this could go to the safety committee. I believe Tom has been presently our representative with the committee, and that probably is going to go through another round of getting who's going to be participating on this. And I'm sure Randy has some documents that he has in place at this time, so we can do a review at some point. That's you're going to be around to do reviews this year, or
I'll be around.
is it something the safety committee could take a look at, I guess?
Yeah, once we get back to meetings
Okay.
in person.
Well, I think with the timeline I've been seeing, and we've talked here, is that June looks like a reasonable timeline to give everybody an opportunity to get vaccinated. So I think as the state moves forward, people are, getting that opportunity. Vaccinations have taken place, and pretty much anybody who wants a vaccine of any age gets vaccinated, then the doors will be opening, and that's the way it will go. We'll follow what the state's doing and open the doors. It's a small space, so we're sensitive to that here. Whereas, I know some other communities might have some larger spaces, gymnasiums and stuff, and we don't have that here. It's a very small building, so we're staying the course until vaccines have had their opportunity to be administered. At least that's my,
Yep, no, it's good. Yeah, we can be had to read notes, we can June, July timeframe anyway.
okay. So we'll be doing that. Great. So I don't know that you need or want a motion for this, or just want to put it as an applicable part of the process. I leave it to what you would like.
We'll put it as part of the contract, and we'll basically, because I'm gonna put it more as a draft program to try and figure out what we need to tweak. The real world, using it in the real world, can be able to tweak it, I think gives us an advantage.
Okay.
And it's actually Cobalt Construction Management, Chris Garcia is actually gonna become the construction project manager for this. He's been working on it now for several months. The draft document is actually his document drafted by his legal counsel and something he's used for years. So I'm confident that we're in good shape, and he's actually the one that's gonna be day-to-day managing that, overseeing that with the individual contractors. So he's holding them accountable with his daily check-ins and pictures and documentation. So each part of the project will be fully documented as far as process, and here's what it looked like, and here's what it looks like at the end, and everything that happened in the middle.
Well, and there again, as processes like this unfold on the project, we could do what we did with the Elm Street Bridge, because there's always a discussion, is it this bad? Why are you spending money? What is this? That was fine, well, somebody will claim. And having some pictures to put on the website to say, no, it wasn't fine, there were issues, and or, the progression where we started and where we ended up. It's a nice story to tell. So we can do
So I
that.
actually had to build that baseline at the latter part of December for the entire project, phase 1, 2, and 3. So that's fully picture documented. I get between 50 and 60 pictures. Many of those I had to send up to LCHIP as part of our scope of work
Right.
to support it, and that's what's being reviewed by the LCHIP review committee right now around what we're doing on the project. So the other thing is that, LCHIP basically approves pretty much anything we're doing and how we're doing it. So it's not like we're just out there doing it.
Right. But I think that's been the same story. Everything that we've done, we've had some pretty good oversight and interactions with engineering companies or, third-party reviews. So just anything that informs folks in the community what's being accomplished, I suppose.
We're gonna start picking up the additional information going out to people as the project begins to gear up. So there'll be a lot of email traffic, social media traffic, the historic town hall website traffic, pictures, comments around progress.
All right, sounds good.
And that's all I had on my list, Mike.
Okay. I am just making myself a note to reach out to Joe Kenny's office in regards to funding for infrastructure. And I'll try to get through a few things that I have. All right, haven't even read it. This was dropped off in my mailbox by Jeff Libby. It's the updated contract language, and again, we can buzz through this here and sign it up. He's basically putting numbers to certain types of wood that will, the prices are so stable, he feels he can lock them in for the year. And it will be on a review of an annual basis. Some species, it'll be market price in the year because they fluctuate. The conversation we had and I had with Jeff was simply that we were looking to insulate him from an overreach and get himself where the market prices have changed and he has something else written in that could backfire on him. So I haven't reviewed it. Like I said, we can do that tail end here of the meeting just to make sure and sign it. He also included a insurance doc. It's about to run its course in the month of March, but he renews, and when the project starts, you just ask.
So, do we want to make a motion to approve it pending on the review?
Yeah,
Signature?
that would work. Why don't you give that a
I'll
whirl?
make a motion that we approve the contract.
It's the timber, a timber agreement with Jeff
Timber
Lewis.
sale agreement,
Yep.
with our town forester. And basically, we're pending quick review of this at the end. We'll sign it before we leave today.
Okay, and I'll make a motion, I'll second your motion.
Fuller, aye.
Hal and I, and just so the public knows that the town has timber lots or like at our transfer station, for example, there's a lot of land out there. It's not just simply the transfer station, it's a 300+ acre parcel, and Jeff manages that for the town and will oversee the cutting, and we just are staying with him to do so. He's been doing this a really long time, and we're happy to have him to do this. And let's see, with that, I have the permits that we now will be getting in short order from Department of Environmental Services as a follow-up on Pine River Road. There's 3 overflow culverts that need to go in. They're 2 foot in diameter, and that's mandated by the state. You know, we just don't have a choice. This is the least expensive option for us to pursue.
Sounds like it would be a good option for the discussion we had very early this morning.
You know,
Money available.
like I said, we have shovel-ready projects. We've got a few. And with that, there's an ARM fund component, which is $1,644.42. Once we need to send a check in to Department of Environmental Services. I have all that information somewhere. I'll get to Audrey because it's going to go through HEB engineers, and they'll distribute it forward and keep record. I have a rough.
Excuse me, won't they invoice us for it then?
Yes, and I may have something on the way as it stands. I will make sure that we get that. I'll be talking to Chris at HEB, and the other part of this is when we're going into town from say 16, you go over the culvert, and that's the area now as we're moving into town where these 3 overflows are going to go. That now was going to go further off the right of way just to reach the body of water out there on one side. And that side, the owner is the Conservation Commission in the town of Effingham. So we were going to need an easement, which was going to cost even more money to do all the surveying and legal and file it. But I had asked Chris if he could talk with Department of Environmental Services, and seeing this Conservation Commission is an extension of the town, separate, but yet it is the town. And they're willing to accept a letter of agreement. So I have done a rough draft on that, and I was going to pull from these documents lot and map and, you know, the length of culverts, whatever it is. But it would just reference it as of the plan and the plan's name. So I'll be filling this out later this afternoon on a Word document, finish it. Audrey will know that. Be looking forward to it because I will forward it to her, and she'll put all the nice letterhead and touch it up and do what she does with the document so it goes, it's ready. And I will bring this to the Conservation Commission this week.
Do we need to order some 24-inch culverts?
It looks like and that's part of the measurements I'm going to take off the plan. It looks like we have 6 lengths required. It might be a little more on one of them, but it really looks like it's staying in the 40 footers, which they come in 20-foot sections. So I know I had done bulk purchasing before to save us about 40% on the price of culverts. I have an inventory, but just to be sure, I'm going to shoot down to the transfer station and make sure that we have a half a dozen in stock. Otherwise, the conversation would be, and I want to include Ron Evans on this, do we have other culverts to be addressed that maybe we don't have in stock, like a 30-inch or a 36-inch around town? Because to get that 40% off roughly, you have to hit a target number. It used to be $5,000 of an order. Last year, it was $3,500. So these culverts, I think they run somewhere a little over $300, $350 a section times 6. We're pretty close if we had to order all 6, but I know we've got some. But we do want to have a couple in stock for when we need to replace them.
So are there any larger culverts on the Conservation Commission top 10 list that you recently had updated?
That's a great question, because I've been carrying that with me so that I got to go out and circle around and look for those. I've also reached out to Ron Evans to say, we need to get together to look at those culverts and to schedule some of these projects and get some input. So,
And when you do that,
I'm hoping to,
the townhouse road below Libby Road there where the Beaver
Yeah.
washout is?
Yeah.
The washout now is up to the pavement,
is that right?
so we need to get that built. and
That
get
was on a list last year, so
Yeah,
we'll
but
continue with one.
It's gone now. I mean, it's moved another 1.5 feet back toward the
Right.
road where it's washed out, so.
Okay, so, and that's the thing with that one. There's another one way up on High Watch where the road is jeopardy there, which is a steep cliff. So what I want to do is nail down a date with Ron. Jerry from R&D Paving is, I contacted him because Mike Hanson for the Snow Road Bridge, Mike wants to use Jerry. So Jerry's gonna be in town for that paving process. With that, I wanted to see what it would cost, because it's a small project to, when these culverts go in at Pine River, take care of that. If we had some degradation on these road repairs like you're talking about here, if they're in town to do certain smaller projects, it might be advantageous to see if they could tackle them. We've had a good rapport with them. They've done nice work. The other thing was the intersection of 153 and Huntress Bridge. That didn't get paved last year. It needs to be smoothed out, and I'd like to see, it's a 4-way, but we don't deal with the Parsons Field portion, but straight down from 153, crossing Parsons Field onto the other part of Huntress, we want to get to that. And then there's another lane that heads out again to 153 in there. So it's a 3-way. And I think we ought to try and capture that whole intersection. I know it causes problems for town plows because of the steepness of it prior to being torn up. So we have a number of projects to discuss, and I felt if I can, R&D gave us 3 dates. I wanted to get Ron and hopefully yourself and Tom, if we could all set a date, notice it, and be involved, and maybe we have to take a little loop around the town and look at a few of these areas. The other thing I was interested from Jerry to Price was, I think it requires grinding, which is reclamation. But Jerry's, the professional in the field, and so is Ron. So to get their input. In conjunction with the Snow Road Bridge, the beginning of Snow Road to the bridge is very distressed. You go up it every day. I'm not looking at the spot. I can see your eyes.
I'm laughing because it's like, I think at this point, we're putting more crack filler down than we have pavement on the road.
Well, and that was done in 2018. It's not what you do, but at the time, my philosophy, and I brought it to Mr. Meisner, is that if we could glue that back together, just to buy us a year or 2 or whatever, and we've gone past that. So if we could grind that section and at least bring it to the bridge, that's the worst section. And that's what I'd like to pursue, because we have some money that we're going to carry over for the Green Mountain portion. And I've been putting numbers together for that. And I think we have some funds. it might be best spent on that section of road now that we're doing the bridge and just tie that in. We'd have to come back another day to do the upper portion, but when we do that, we'd probably tie in some deficiencies in the parking lot, in the transfer station itself. So if that makes sense,
Yeah.
so when I know it's either gonna be the 20th, the 21st, or the 22nd, and the target time frame would be like about 1:30 in April.
Okay.
So I will update you guys, everyone with that as that unfolds. I've just got to get back to Jerry at R&D and Ron. I talked to Ron, he felt he could make the dates work, so I'm gonna leave it to Jerry to pick one. And if he picks the 20th, it'd be nice, because then we can schedule a rain date on the following, so. And that way we could post it that way, kind of cover that one. Let's see, okay, I'll be following up on that work. We have this to go over. So I covered the Pine River Conservation Commission connection there for easement. I have talked to Emlyn Albert, the chair. See, I've had a few conversations with the police chief. One of the things is there's a company that would like to be part of the towing rotation. And there's a couple of things to discuss to iron out there, but without going through some of those issues, I took a ride up to see where the site is, where cars would be taken, because if the site isn't appropriate, then there's no point in pursuing any of these other issues. So I'm looking for.
And that's the Tamworth location?
It is.
Okay.
So I went up there and I relayed my observations to Chief Duchesne. And when he gets some time, he's going to probably reach out and set up an actual inspection to see if the facility meets the requirements that the town would have. So that's in process. And I have to connect with Rebecca Boyden, the zoning officer, because she's tied into all this, but right now she's out for a bit, so I'll have to connect with her later. I am waiting for an update from the town office to tell us when our order is in at Concord, at the prisons for the signs. So when that happens, I'm willing to drive over and do the pickup. I've been there a few times, and if anybody would like to join me, Chuck or Tom, it's just so you know the drill.
Drive over to drive back, yeah.
Yeah, well, you get to go in, you see the whole thing. There's a lot of things they sell and do and
Yeah.
whatever. So it's an experience. That's all. If you want to have the shared experience, I have a gentleman.
When you get the name, let me know.
Okay, sure. I have a gentleman who's the Manchester assistant DPW manager. Again, from Manchester, also does the, I believe he's the president at this point in time of the New Hampshire Public Works Association. And we are members now. I put us into that queue. And he's been trying to connect with us for a while now to come up here, but with COVID, there's been some hiccups. So it looks like we're going to schedule a meeting. It was going to be on the 6th, and we bumped that out a little further. I think it might be on the 13th, but he wants to take an overview of the town, some of our projects, lay of the land, and he's got my name somehow. We came up in this being the new, kids on the block, and look at our bridge projects. And apparently he wants to they have a newsletter. And he's thinking they're going to put a feature article in on Effingham, because maybe we're doing things or we're just the new kids in the block. I don't know. So that'll be interesting. Looking forward to that. And I will give you in my notes that date, which my calendar I left at home. So if you'd like to be part of that process, that discussion that day, great. I'm still waiting for, we all are, from Bill Straub from CMA Engineers to send out the presentation materials from the meeting recently. He's going to call in and be on screen 10 o'clock next week's Board of Selectmen's meeting to give us a summary overview of things. In those discussions with his team, aluminum culverts, I brought it up because they're presenting 3 design culverts for the competing 3 designs. The permitting is such that the rules for tier 3 stream crossings suggest that none of them adhere to all the rules. So there'll be permitting we need to work out with the state to see which ones they favor and what we're going to be allowed to do. They're all concrete. And Rodney was with me through the process, and I said, you know, there's been a discussion in town, and I noticed you're doing all concrete and no aluminum set. And it wasn't a planned discussion, so they didn't have science to present. But the consensus at the time was that aluminum wasn't that great of a product. It's not very, it doesn't have a lot of structural integrity, taking hits and logs and scour in the water environment. So one of their experts said that he's the guy who goes out and assesses these things in the field, and his position was that they tend to last 20 to 35 years. So capitalizing on that information, I've asked Bill if he couldn't go back to his team and give us a little more insight onto whether aluminum culverts are an acceptable thing for what we're doing. Can't use it in Snow Road, and we couldn't use it in some other locations because it's not that size appropriate. But the size would encompass the road on Bailey Road. The span going across is available. Height becomes another issue, and footings and stuff, because Bill's going to go back to the team, and they're going to put a little science to the question. So what we get back may change a little, and they may have some options. They may include this, or they may say why they won't. So we can look forward to some more input on that subject of aluminum culverts. So that'll be next week. And let's see, we're also partnering with the Province Lake Association and most likely Acton Watershed Alliance to try and do some state bank stabilization, and there could be additional grant funding there. Also, the window, as I said, to file for grants is June to September for implementation grants. So I've been having some other conversations with Sally Sewell from the Department of Environmental Services, and I've been targeting price points in my mind of what this is going to take. And if we got a culvert that I'm figuring a 12-foot span one, my numbers, I'm coming up with a point in grant funding and what the town's going to raise this year at town meeting and going forward, and our financial situation where we've got on the unassigned fund balance. I feel very strongly that next year we go to town meeting, we receive this grant, it would be a minimal amount in taxation, and the town could fund the majority of the project from unassigned fund balance like we're doing this time, but on a grander level. So I think the project is really going to be in sight, and we could go right into it after next year's town meeting, and that's the plan. So a lot more to come on that. And we talked about Mr. Libby, our forester. We talked about the health office's email address. Todd Mason's contract for landscaping, that should be in the office. And originally talked to Todd a little while back, and he's comfortable moving forward with another year on the contract. That really worked out well for us, I thought. He did a great job. So if we have that contract available for next week's discussion and whether we want to go right with this, it's a minimal amount. It's not a big dollar contract. I would feel comfortable awarding it, but that's the discussion. And I can reach out again to Todd to see if his price point's staying at the same or if there's an adjustment. So I'll follow up there. I did have a conversation with Matt Sawyer, who's the town administrator over in Ossipee. I've gotten some links to the town of Ossipee's rec program. And there's a gentleman, Justin, over there who's going to be going full-time 4 or 5 days a week soon. And I've been connected with him. I haven't followed up yet. but I wanted to have information, and I will get it for town meeting, as to the programs. They're up and functioning now. There are springtime programs, there's things taking place now, so Effingham is theoretically involved in that, although we haven't approved the budget. So a follow-up on just what programs are available. I want a whole breakdown of scheduling. I'm looking for more information this year. It's always a discussion. Part of what Matt has been telling me is that there's a movement to ask for more funding from Effingham based on our percentage of involvement. And the latest email suggested that it might be as high as $35,000. We pay 10 now. In Matt's email, though, he said he's got the board holding off, or the budget committee or the selectmen holding off on such an increase until 2022, and would be willing to honor the price point we have in place today. Down the road, it looks like there will be an increase in that cost, so therefore I want to get all the information on what's being offered.
And we'll know what that number could be before budget season this year?
That would be my hope, in having those lines of communication with Matt, either to Audrey or one of us is available, and we should stay, in tune with that, because they'll probably be doing that at their budget meetings in the same time frame. So that's probably going to be a fluid item when we're going through the budget process. So anyway, that was following up on that one. The Conservation Commission culverts, I've got to get out there on the roads. R&D paving for Snow Road, Huntress Bridge, and Pine River, we've covered. Ron Evans setting up a meeting, we've covered. I've had a complaint about unregistered motorcycles and quads on Green Mountain Road. So I passed that on to the PD to say that these things are supposedly happening. That's up to them what they do with any of that. And I think other than the work I have to do to complete today to go forward on some other things, I don't really have anything else to pursue outside of some non-publics for employee discussions, which would be for you and myself at this point, since Tom's not here. And then the fire chief has a non-public, and it would seem that Audrey has a non-public. So
Normally we've got all that. Can we just take 5 minutes and go over that forestry contract?
absolutely.
That way we can just sign it, and then we can get into all the non-public stuff.
And
Can
I'm
we just take a second to circle back on me, because I had more than introducing Deanna.
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You should have just stopped me in my
I
tracks.
almost did. I thought I'd be patient, because both of you covered a lot of my stuff, so that's cool. I'm really trying to get in touch with Lenhart Systems to deal with the police station, because we still need the cooperation of the police to get them hooked into dispatch to get off the spectrum. And A&B Lock was here last week. I knew they were coming, I was hoping they were coming during the week, but they showed up unexpectedly. And for them to be able to look at all of the videos, the police look at the videos on an as-needed basis, they need certain IP numbers to be able to get in. So I need Lenhart to get back up here, and I'll be calling again today, because 2 emails haven't done it. Brian from A&B, I needed him to get rid of some codes on our security, and he acknowledged that he got my email, but not that it's been accomplished, so hopefully that'll happen, and he'll give me the application. I lost that when I had the computer. The school has acknowledged that we're all set. We have 3 children coming off the roster, and we have 2 being looked into, I guess by a truant officer who does that. So potentially 5 children coming down. Let's see. The accountant who's been helping me out with the 2020 books, we should be finalizing that tomorrow. We're into December. and things are looking good. We'll maybe have some expenses coming out of 2020, a couple new ones that weren't recorded going in. And I'm really hoping tomorrow will be the end of 2020. Then we'll move on to the Gatsby.
Okay, and with that, do you have a time frame for Greg to be in? Because although I've contacted him, I set him up to come and work for us, I haven't met him. And I like to meet all of our vendors, so if he's coming in, I'd like to just pop in and get this, have a little bit of an interaction, just say hi.
Yeah, we're usually here between 8:30 and 9 on Wednesday mornings.
Okay, so that's when he comes in?
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe tomorrow.
all right.
Let's
So you're
see.
forewarned, I'm probably gonna show up, ruin your coffee break.
That's fine. He doesn't
Okay.
drink coffee. And then we're gonna work on the personnel policy tomorrow. That'll be great. Get that moving and off. And the town report is my big to-do. Hopefully we can fill personnel and lighten the load.
Right.
Yeah.
You,
Oh, we've had the advertisement on the website for a week now, and I haven't had any new candidates, so
bring her in.
I have the one strong one. And for the public, all the Zoom meetings are being posted on the website now. I work with Teresa, so I can put the minutes on the website. I can put the Zoom links weekly on the website myself. That's all set.
Oh, that's great. That was huge. Thank you.
And maybe next week we'll try Zooming directly to YouTube.
Nice.
Cool. Do we want to try and do the interview of this person before a regular meeting where we have a shortage of help?
We'll kind of roll into that in the non-public part. So,
Okay, good, that'll work.
Yeah, I was gonna probably say that probably needs to be coordinated with their, Audrey's
Well, no, but
schedule.
I'm
and-
just saying, it's like we don't need to hold off for a
No.
regular meeting. If something comes up and we can get an opportunity to interview somebody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I see what you're saying.
Okay,
And the other thing I was gonna offer up is the town report, building that, obviously, that's now getting a little time pressure sensitive for you. Do you want any help? Any other input? Having
Okay,
somebody in like myself?
Closing my door Thursday and not allowing any selectmen in.
I was gonna say, it could be more of a distraction than a help. We'll just pick it apart after you put it together.
Right.
Okay, great. Hey, frees up my day. I'm good with it.
All right, and from the public, Dave Strauss wants you to call him regarding the library expenses, and I don't know if we have other comments. People can raise their hands. Mike, you might want to say it so they hear you.
Okay, in case people didn't hear that, we're going to take public comments. So if anybody has any questions, either raise your hand on your computer and Audrey will let you in. You may have to unmute yourself and we'll try to answer whatever questions come up. Although we don't guarantee that, we could try.
Okay. I'm not seeing anyone. Do you need a copy of the contract?
The copy of,
Libby?
no, he provided two, one for us, one for him, I'm assuming.
yeah, I'm good with this, Mike.
Okay. Seems okay to me.
Sign away.
Make a motion to sign.
For a second, hold on.
To hell and on.
And that's the town forester contract. Okay.
Okay. So with that, we'll probably just make copies of the original that I signed, and this is just a repeat here. And has insurance with it. That can all go right in the signature folder, and I'll put it on the other side so it's easy to find. All right. So with no other comments coming in, if you want to make a motion to go into non-public, and we'll take a 5-minute break or whatever, 10-minute, whatever.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to
Okay, I will second that, and that is for 91A, Roman 2, 91A3, Roman 2A. Let me get it. Mine's turning to mush. RSA 91A, colon 3, Roman 2A. That's pretty much in the ballpark. So second by Cahalan, all right. Cahalan, aye. And with that, we'll take a little bit of a break. When you come back, Chuck, we have this nice.
Zoom recording. You're on.
All right, so we're gonna come out of non-public, and with that, I'll make a motion to enter back into public session.
Fuller, second.
Okay, all in
Fuller,
favor?
aye.
Cahalan, aye. With that, did we have any subject matters, Mr. Fuller, that you feel it requires the minutes to be sealed?
No.
Okay. With that, I don't know that there's any other business to be conducted here at this point. Audrey, was there anything else? Did we miss anything from your end?
When I opened my folder, I did see that, Mark, did you talk to the state about Mark's course in October? Is he okay? Or do I need to do something?
I need to get him the date. He didn't put the date with it, so he didn't get the proof factor.
Okay, because I know I called Tara Albert.
What's the date I gave you?
He had 10/15/2020.
I can tell you that one.
That's probably
I think it's
accurate.
close, if not accurate. Come on.
Because I put Audrey in touch with Tara Albert. I called her directly. Just to find out what the missing component was.
October 15th, 2020.
Yeah.
Was done in the group session.
Yeah.
So what she wants is verification of attendance.
I'll send you an email when I get home,
Okay.
because I was quote unquote the moderator.
Alright.
Or facilitator.
Very good.
And that's it.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Send Audrey an email.
With that, I guess it's time to pack up and make phone calls and such. So
Is that a motion to adjourn?
I'm going to do that. I was waiting for Chuck to finish his notes to make sure doesn't have anything else.
Nope, I'm all set.
All right, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Hold a second.
All in
All
favor?
right.
Cahalan, aye. With that, we're gonna close out the meeting. Thank you, people, folks, for attending. And off we go.
Yes, son of mine.